White Sox team can have a really decent season in a really bad division. That's what you guys have to remember. It's a really bad division.
It is.
That's
what you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
You have your scab-eating OC holding you back, calling two of the same screenplays in a row during one game, and having you throw two passes, which I was corrected by, one pass in the fourth quarter of a game you were the best player in. Fight me!
A bullshit? A bullshit? A bullshit. Bullshit.
a good organization would do. But this is the Bears, not a good organization. So they're going to keep Ryan Poles.
Why?
We just feel our disappointment. That's all.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that.
Between the Bears and the Bears.
Yeah, we do it. We do it when it's still warm outside.
Right, yeah.
We can get out like October, beginning November. Still like 50, 60 degrees. Nowadays, it's still like 70 degrees.
And that way, during the winter, we're still so angry that everything's warm. And welcome to Combs and Fitz, the Windy City Sports Talk. It's your boy, Brandon Combs, with my guy, Ryan Fitzgibbons. Fitzy.
Hello, Combs.
What is going on, buddy? I feel like we haven't done a show in like a month.
Yeah. Well, what? See, that's what happens when we don't do a show for a month.
You're back to being a rookie.
Anytime.
I see what's there.
It's been a long. It has. It's been a long time, sir. How's life? What the hell? What the hell is going on?
Not much. Life is going crazy. I started a new job over at WRMN as a host on Saturdays. Got a show over there called On the Rise, so you guys can find me there on 1410 AM every Saturday from 8 to 10. I also am going to be covering the White Sox for WRMN.
Yay!
Yeah. So I will be got my
How are they doing?
My first two press passes, my first two accreditation for the June 7th and June 8th games versus the Kansas City Royals. So I'll be covering the game for WRMN on there as well. So lots of stuff, man. It's been exciting, but there's so much to talk about. I mean, since we've last been on, the Cubs have stayed hot.
The draft happened. We did have Jeremiah on the show to talk about that.
Yeah, the White Sox have been
do not look the same. Yeah, I mean,
not good, but they're fun to watch. They're competitive.
There's a lot of people that call or talk to me, and they're like, "What's wrong with the Sox?" It's like, I mean, come on, you guys didn't know this. Like, you don't watch the Sox a lot, do you? And they're like, "Nah." I'm like, "Yeah, they're
last year, right? I
mean, they're terrible." But even in this series, where they've been walloped by the Cubs, you got 2 home runs by Miguel Vargas in the first game. You got a home run by Tim Alcoholic.
Tim Alcoholic. I like it. See, you're already taking the nickname. I like it.
And you got Mydroth hitting his first home run. I mean, even Shane Smith, Sam Smith, whatever.
Yeah.
Their basic ace right now pitched pretty good. I mean, he had 5 unearned runs in the game because I don't know why you still got Matt Tyson there as your catcher, but
it's a wonder why they do a lot of the things that they do. It's been kind of interesting to see. I mean, look, the Cubs have had their faults too. I mean, look, they are 1-6 on Sundays. I don't know what it is about Sundays, but they cannot. Well, they win every other day of the week. They do not win on Sundays, and now 1-0 lead right now on the top of the fourth for the Cubs. But with this bullpen, some of the moves that they've made, I mean, they have had some pitchers overperform. Colin Ray's been a fantastic addition to this welcome addition to this starting rotation that's been injured.
I watched him pitch live at Wrigley.
Yeah,
he didn't pitch that well against San Francisco, but other than that, unless you're the Giants, he's been pretty good.
Yeah, and the Cubs played a gauntlet of a schedule in April as well, so I was pleasantly surprised by the way that they came out. What's going on, Troy Garman? See, coming in here. He wants to know if the White Sox still have Frank Thomas. No, they have not had him for about 30 years.
Yes.
He's just joking, by the way. One of our friends over at Dad's with Bacon. But no, man, it's been wild. I mean, the Bears too. Their schedule has been released. We had the draft. We have all sorts of stuff to talk about. And when Fitzy hit me up this week, and I wasn't available on Thursday because I had to work, and then we tried to figure it out on Sunday, and he messages me this morning. He's like, "Hey, show at 2:00." I was like, "Hell yeah!" Right in the middle of Cubs and Sox and the start of Game 7 between Oklahoma City and Denver. Let's do it. And so we're doing it. Because Fitz pays attention to schedules, apparently.
I mean, what I don't.
One of the sports days of the week. But why
it's May baseball, and
I'll give you this.
Does anybody watch basketball anymore?
Well, I'll give you the playoffs have been fun, actually. I'll give you this.
Miguel Vargas hits another home run.
7 as their only game of the day at 2:30 in the afternoon.
Yeah, they're getting notes from baseball for some reason. They're taking baseball notes.
As Miguel Vargas just tied the game up with a home run, 1-1 now in the top of the 4th inning. Should have bet
his third home run of the series. That bet must.
Yeah,
we're going to talk about a lot of betting today too.
He's going to be on that steroids list, just like the Phillies closer. Getting suspended today for 80 games. It's funny. The news comes down about
suspension.
Yeah, about the 80 game suspension over in Philly, and 10 minutes before that, we were talking steroids on the air at BetMGM, and I said I actually think you should allow steroids back in the game because I miss it. And then 10 minutes later. I guess I wasn't the only one that thinks you should allow steroids.
And you're going to be the one yelling and screaming when the Phillies beat the Cubs in the playoffs, and they get in the final game of the playoffs is being closed.
That's the biggest part of that suspension too, man. Is that not only if they survive the 80 games now without their closer, right, which is a big deal.
Yeah.
If you survive
especially these days,
he's also not
Jose Alvarado.
Yeah, he's not eligible for the playoffs either, though, because of this suspension.
Oh, yeah. Right.
So that's an even bigger deal, right? Because even if you survive that, now you're going to have to go into the playoffs without your closer. And man, that's something. So Philly fans probably going a little crazy today, wondering what's going on. Apparently, according to reports, it was because of a weight loss drug he was taking.
Oh, okay. At least it's not the Paul Bird one, which got a lot of laughs when I was doing interviews before the Sox game.
Well, what was the Paul? I forget.
Paul Bird said that he was it was a dentist thing and that he was addicted to porn. But I'm not sure what that second part has to do about it.
I mean, they do say steroids help speed up the bat swing. Just saying.
Those muscle twitch fibers.
Get
going.
Something.
Get those fibers a rolling.
He was able to do the helicopter and actually take off. Yeah.
Yes.
Anyway, moving past that one. Look, no, the Cubs Sox series this weekend, it's been what you expected it to be, right? Look, there was the Cubs, you expected the Cubs to take at least 2 out of 3 in this series. And
yeah.
They should have done. They probably should have lost 2 out of 3 to the Marlins heading into this series too, if it wasn't for a miraculous 9th inning comeback in game 2 of that series, and then they dropped game 3 3-1. It's been a battle for the Cubs, losing their top 2 pitchers to injury. First, you lose Justin Steele for the season with his elbow surgery, and then you lose Shota Imanaga from a hamstring injury, which he suffers a week after grabbing onto that hamstring that they said was just cramps. And then the very next outing, he goes down with a pulled hamstring.
White Sox doctors?
I've got to question some somebody's medical attention there. It just seemed like it was too suspicious for it to have just not been an oversight there. So the Cubs are dealing with that, but they've been dealing well with it. This offense has been good enough to carry them through,
Yeah,
and they've done just that. I mean, they are
been great.
well. PCA has been. We were talking about this before we got on air. I mean, he's going to be in White Sox fans' nightmares. Those White Sox fans that just detest the Cubs, like your brother or my buddy Tony, who just absolutely despises the Cubs but loves the White Sox, is going to see PCA in their nightmares. Because
Yeah, I mean he's been great in this what 2 1/3 of a game series so far. I mean, he's been great this season. He's got the same WAR as Shohei Ohtani. You're doing pretty good if you're doing that. Left-handed center fielder who can hit like this. I mean, even he's not going to hit 50 home runs and have 130 RBIs this season, but because that's kind of what he's on pace for. But I mean, if he can hit 20 to 25 a year, you know how I am with left-handed bats that play, at pretty much any outfield position, who can hit for power. I mean, they're worth over their weight in gold. Pick another medal, maybe a medal from somewhere else in the galaxy, but they are. I mean, he's been great. I mean, I can't even say, and they need to pile up wins at this part of the season. Because guys like Cade Horton, maybe even Rhea, maybe some of their other pitchers might not be pitching late into the season. When you do have younger pitchers, you are going to, put some strain on that bullpen that hasn't been that good. So they do have to pile up wins. I would say on this, whether their schedule gets better in the second half of the season or not, I think they have to pile up wins on this, the front half of the season. And that's what they're doing. Especially like against bad teams, like the White Sox. I mean, when did the Colorado Rockies get in town? Who are really bad?
They are really, really bad.
I mean, I don't know what they're on pace for, but do the math.
Yeah, it's
or what past the quarter through the season they have how many wins?
Right. Yeah.
But I mean, they do have to. I just feel like they have 8 wins, so they did win last night. Their run differential is minus 143.
Yes.
That's almost 100 runs more than the Sox. Not that I get into run differential in baseball at this point in the season that much. It's a good stat to look at, but you don't know where a team's at.
Yeah,
really, with being hurt, you don't know where some of their pitching is at. But minus 143. Quick math. 45 games into the season.
Yeah. It's been interesting. It's the White Sox too, though. I mean, look, we were talking about this just a minute ago. They've been more entertaining to watch.
Yeah.
Young guys like Chase Mydroth leads the game off yesterday with a home run, right? Like you're watching players and they're finally starting to bring these guys up. I don't know what took them so long to bring up Tim Elko. His OPS in the minors was 1,000 points higher than Andrew Vaughn's in the majors. I mean, I don't know what took them so long, but sometimes the White Sox still step on their own feet. And you on the other side of town,
Eddie Carroll. I mean, Jesus, guys betting 300. Like, come on.
It's been like they're sending guys down, in too fast as opposed because I feel like Shaw could have learned in this lineup. Shaw could have figured it out at this level. Because I know he's gone back down to AAA. He's tearing it up right now in AAA. I think he's got 4 home runs in his last 6 games.
Yeah, you don't have to have him. He doesn't have to be a guy who's hitting a lot. Just let him learn in the 9th hole.
From third base spot right now, anyways, in the lineup. Because it was Friday, every player in the Cubs lineup had a hit except for the 3 third basemen that played that day.
This third base thing and this bullpen thing with this team.
Well, the bullpen
We're
is
going on 3 years.
figure itself out a lot like it did last year. The bullpen has slowly started to get a little bit better. Now, they do still need to find a way to get Ryan Presley out of that closer role, push Presley back, maybe have Presley pitch in the 5th, 6th, 7th inning, whatever the case is. You still have to figure that out and what you're going to do with him. But calling up Cade Horton and how good he's been through his first 2 outings has been phenomenal. I mean, he pitched great against the Mets. He had that one mistake where he gave up a 3-run home run. They ended up winning that game, and he took the win in that one. And then against the White Sox on Friday, again, gives up 1 home run, 2-run shot, and that was it. He settles back down, and that's been very, you've been happy to see that. But then a name that they bring him up, Chris Flexen, and he's been really good for this.
He could throw a few. Yeah, he'll give you some good innings. He could strike out some guys now and then. He walks some guys.
Starter, though. And the Cubs are pitching primarily as a middle relief.
Yeah. Well, the Sox needed anybody to eat up innings they could.
Yeah. Well, and that's going to be a thing here. You have had some good, because their ERA, their team ERA heading into this weekend was the exact same as the Cubs team ERA. So it's not like they've been pitching bad. The pitching staff has been okay for this team. They just go on those spurts. Like, I also believe that they, heading into this weekend, only had 1 or 2 less games in which they had won by 7 or more runs than the Cubs. The Cubs, I think, had done it 9 times, and the White Sox have done it 7 times. So the problem with the Sox is they can't continue to put it together the way that the Cubs have. They haven't been able to string those games together. And that's been the big difference. But the Sox have been fun to watch, man.
Yeah, they've been all right. I mean, some of the pitching's been good. Like I said, with Smith, Cannon, whatever his name is.
Anyway, it'll be
Cannon's been good. Even Sean Burke, who seemed like he'd be a bright spot, as Cannon gets a strikeout right there as the Cubs player pitches. I don't know which Cubs batter that was. Kind of flashed on the screen pretty quickly. But anyway, wait, what'd you say?
The catcher, Carson Kelly.
Oh,
I don't know what he's
had a great year too. Carson Kelly's had a great year too.
He's been outstanding. The entire catcher position has been outstanding. They're the from that position, they've got in Major League Baseball the second most productive position from their catchers.
Dude, bring back Tucker Bernhardt.
Yeah.
Anyway, Doubting Thomas is right. They're still shitty. Yes, they are still shitty. But the great thing about baseball that you don't have in other sports, at least you don't see
in that picture, is it?
I have no idea what's going on there. I don't.
Some guy feeling on some girl's leg. I don't know what is going on with him.
It looks like inner office sexual harassment to me. I'm not surprised that he's advertising that, really.
Yeah.
He's in a suit. She looks like she's in some nice clothes.
Unreal.
And they are still shitty. But anyway, what I was saying is the good thing about baseball is you can root for like certain players.
Yeah.
You can even root for a bad team if they got some guys coming up who are playing well. Like I said, like my Drother, or when Kyle Teal ever gets up here too, who's raking down in the minors. Like, could we just give up on Andrew Vaughn, who did have a couple home runs as soon as Alcoholic came up. Tim Elko came up, and he did have a couple home runs, but I just don't. Correct, Fitz. I actually searched sexual harassment images. I'm just saying, if the FBI gets into his computer, I mean, they're just going to throw away the key. They're just going to put him in prison and throw away the key.
Can we really blame him since we constantly bring up his comments? I mean, we don't have to put them on the screen.
We're sort of enabling him. Is that what you're saying? So it's our fault that we're enabling him. So this is what we're doing now. So this is what we're doing. See, this started in the 90s, where if I'm enabling somebody, it's my fault.
Yeah.
It's my fault. So it's like anything else. If I invent a better shotgun, it's my fault that Kurt Cobain blew his head off. I don't know why I went to Kurt Cobain, but whatever.
Well,
I'm just saying.
It's actually a good transition because speaking of people that are dead, Pete Rose.
Here we go.
And a bunch of other players that have been previously banned by MLB. The ban has been lifted post-mortem, and they are now allowed and eligible for the Hall of Fame. Does this, first of all, is this a stupid thing that Major League Baseball is doing? Not the fact that they're reinstating these guys, but the fact that they are only going to reinstate players that are banned post-mortem. And two, does this open the way for other players, like players that should be in the Hall of Fame from the steroid era, i.e. Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens? Does this open the door for them to get into the Hall of Fame?
Well, I mean, just from what I've seen, I'm not for sure of this, but I know I have a feeling that Barry Bonds and Mark McGwire did not rape a 13-year-old. So I think they should be in because I'm sorry, I was always on the other side of the Pete Rose thing, even though he just kept lying and lying and lying after he was guilty. I think he would have already been in the Hall of Fame if he would have just said, all right, I bet on the game, whatever. The bullshit with, oh, he only bet on his team. Yeah, did he bet every game on his team? Because I doubt he did. He bet on the games where he knew his pitcher was going to be good. He knew he had a better chance of winning. So I don't care if he bet on his team. That's fucking stupid. Stop saying that, people. That's not an argument. You're an idiot. Anyway, so if he would have just been honest from the beginning, I think he would already be in the Hall of Fame. But he's just sat there and lied for years and years and years and years. So we didn't get into, and then finally, it's not like Major League Baseball brought him back, but he started to come back a little bit. He was on a lot of broadcasts.
Yeah, and now his Hall of Fame induction ceremony is going to be sponsored by DraftKings. So spare me if I don't sit there and coddle you while you're worried about how many games he bet on.
Are you talking about me? Are you coddling me?
Yeah.
I'm just saying, my problem is the others. I mean, I think at some point you can't let pedophiles into the Hall of Fame. That's just me. I don't know. It seems like he did what they said he did. I could be wrong. You're right.
Ty Cobb do what they said he did?
Well, actually, Ty Cobb did not do most of the things they said he did. A lot of that is bullshit.
Were you there?
I can't say that I was there for everything. I can't say I was there for everything that happened with anybody. But are we going to let in murderers if they murdered somebody and they're guilty? It seems like this woman came forward.
All right, but what I'm also saying is that.
See, you're wrong about Ty Cobb. All the stuff that was said about Ty Cobb was just not true.
It is alleged, correct? Just like I could tell you the same thing about Barry Bonds. Barry Bonds allegedly took steroids. He never failed the test. Never once failed the test.
And he's a total prick. But I'm just saying.
Be a prick all you want.
I'm just saying. No, look, and you could be a prick. Yes, you can be a prick. I'm not saying you can't be a prick. I'm just saying you can't diddle 13-year-old. That's all I'm saying. I'm not taking really the moral high ground. I don't even think this is moral high ground. I'm not coming out on like some side of this isn't even an argument, really. Oh yes, I don't think you should diddle children. He says that's what happens. They have to admit to it to be considered eligible for the Hall. That's bullshit.
I mean, I agree. Like, why do you have to admit to it to be eligible for the Hall of Fame? Why just baseball made billions of dollars off of these guys, and Pete Rose included. Pete Rose on the field is one of the greatest players of all time. I
agree. On the field, yes, I agree. And really, if all this stuff happened and there was no diddling of a 13-year-old, I'd be fine with it. But like, that's where I stop at. I don't think that's controversial to say I stop at diddling 13-year-olds. And it's pretty much proven that that's what he did. I'm sorry. I think he would even admit to it.
I haven't seen, I don't really, I'll be completely honest with you. I've heard the allegation before, but I've never seen anything on it. So I really don't know enough about it to be like, oh, he did this or he didn't do it. And if he did do it, I'm with you, right? Probably shouldn't be a guy we should be arguing for to get into the Hall of Fame.
But everything before it, if it's not true, like, you know, am I 100% on it? No, but they have like letters. They have that he obviously went after this girl, I guess. You know, you have to read up on it a little bit. I mean, we can look for an article. There's many articles out about it. I don't know. If that is not true or comes out that it's not true, yeah, I think he should be in the Hall of Fame.
Well,
I thought for years he should be in the
I
Hall.
think until it comes out that it is true, because we live in a country that you're innocent until proven guilty, that we have to just kind of use it as allegedly, right? Like same way that we have to do with everything else. Same thing we have to do with the Ty Cobb stuff, where he was allegedly a racist and a murderer himself, who would beat people and choke people out if he didn't like something about them, or even if they were sharing the same side of the sidewalk of them and they were people of color. So we don't know whether or not it happened, so we go off of what was on the field. That's always been the Baseball Hall of Fame's reaction to why they have some of these people in the Hall of Fame. It's some of the reason why they had Marge Schott in the Hall of Fame, right? Like, there are really bad people that are in the Hall of Fame. I will give you that, but you have to go off of what they did on the field. And that's why when it comes down to this, like, for me personally, until Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens go into the Hall of Fame is just a museum. It's just a museum, because you can't have a Baseball Hall of Fame without the greatest hitter, the greatest player of all time inside of the Baseball Hall of Fame. He is the greatest player to ever step on the field, is Barry.
Yes. Yeah, you know what? I mean, when all the steroid stuff was first really going down, like, what was it, like 2004, 2005, 2006, around there, when it really, reached a fever pitch. Yeah, I mean, then I think I had a different take on this, but now I think they should be in the Hall of Fame. I think Roger Clemens is almost definitely in the Hall of Fame. I think Barry Bonds is definitely in the Hall of Fame. I don't know about guys like Sammy Sosa.
I'm fine with that.
Who were kind of bad, and then all of a sudden we're very, very good.
The one thing that I have given into when it comes to the debate of the steroid era is, if you want to take out the home run numbers and go based off all their other stats and then determine whether or not they are a Hall of Famer. Now, the home run numbers still have to go in the Hall of Fame. They happened.
Yeah.
But if you want to take that aside and then decide if they are a Hall of Famer, then then you go ahead and you do that. I would be okay with that, because especially with Barry Bonds, home runs aside, is still the greatest player to ever step on the field. This man had a season in 2004 where he had more hits, 132 or 133 something in that era, 120 intentional walks, and only 92 times did he swing and miss at a baseball. That's ridiculous.
Oh, it's insane.
The things that he has on his resume is ridiculous. You've got guys in the Hall of Fame who have positive tests, like we've talked about this before. Like, you have Big Papi David Ortiz, who's gone in and he has 2 positive tests, who was on the Mitchell Report, and he's in the Hall of Fame because baseball reporters liked him and baseball writers liked him.
Yeah, he was funny.
But now you're going to tell me that a guy who, if you took all of his home runs, like I just mentioned, and turned them into outs and discounted the numbers, still has a 5-point higher OPS than that man. That's crazy as well. There are so many Barry Bonds stats that you can get into. They're almost like Chuck Norris jokes. It's ridiculous how good Barry Bonds actually was. He's the greatest player of all time. Roger Clemens, one of the greatest pitchers of all times, absolutely belongs in the Hall of Fame. He just does. I mean, what do you win? 7 Cy Youngs?
Something like that. I would take a few of those down from steroids. I mean, if you want to.
Sure.
But
Okay.
even so, I mean, he was a really good pitcher with Boston. His Boston career, and then he would add a few more years after that. Definitely puts him into the Hall of Fame. I mean, they're putting a lot of guys.
Was using.
They're putting into a lot.
Players were using.
You don't have to talk over me.
I'm not. I'm still going with my point.
You weren't still going. You weren't done. Your point's over. Your point is over. You named Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens. Let's get on with it.
So anyway, we're going to continue right here.
All right, go.
No, all I was going to finish saying was that you can't tell me that there was any player in that era that was not using. I'll never believe it. I don't believe Ken Griffey Jr. didn't use. There's no reason why once testing started, why all of a sudden he became injury prone and gained a whole bunch of weight. You're not going to tell me that guys like Frank Thomas weren't using to get through the everyday aches and pains. Now, some of these guys used to the point where they wanted to bulk up. Sammy Sosa wanted to bulk up because he was about your size when he broke into the league, and he wanted to bulk up. Same Mark McGwire. He was always a big dude, but his forearms got massive. He used it to bulk up.
Oh my God, it was ridiculous.
Yeah. Jose Canseco used it to bulk up, but some of these guys used it to get through the everyday aches and pains of the 162 game grind. There is no way, and I've said this 100 times, and people keep coming at me. There is no way Cal Ripken Jr. played all those consecutive games without something to get him through the everyday. You will never get me to believe that. It just wasn't a thing. When you or I get injured, if we have a partial tear in a ligament, or if we have something that the doctor prescribes the steroid for us to get through it.
Yeah. If we have that, or even if we're talking about like an illness or something like that. Yeah.
I don't have any problem with anybody who used at all, because we're all on a level playing field. Now, you could make the argument that players that are still getting suspended for it today are on a different level, and we could have that argument. But the steroid era in its own, every era in baseball has its thing. Do we discount the Babe Ruth numbers and the numbers of players before black players were allowed to play in the game? We don't discount that, but some of the greatest players ever might have been in the Negro League.
No, I mean, and I'm agreeing with you. I think a lot of these guys should be in. I mean, I think it's hard to decide. Doubting Thomas says Griffey, he was skinnier than Fitz in the 90s. Yeah, but Griffey didn't look like a mutant. I mean, I don't think Griffey's head and foot size changed in his 30s. I mean, it didn't seem like it did.
His size changed after in his 30s after
yes. And I think the I don't see somewhere where Griffey's numbers just absolutely explode off the sheet to where he's way better than he was before in his late 30s. I mean, maybe he juiced, like you said, to get over injuries, or juiced now and then. We're never going to know the answer to that. They didn't even have real testing.
It's just about what you believe, right? Because I'll never believe that they didn't use, and you might believe that some of them didn't use.
I don't think they all used. I just don't. Especially a lot, and I hate to say this, call me racist if you want, a lot of American players, because you couldn't get it right down the street. You had to do a couple extra things to get it. These guys that were Hispanic players that went back to the Dominican, that went back to some of these countries where really you could get steroids right down the street. You could get it at a local store. In America, there's a lot of regulations. You couldn't get it.
I love Ryan Sandberg. I named my son after him. Like, he's my favorite player of all time.
Oh, here we go.
I believe that he probably was even using to get through to some juncture to get through the aches and pains of 162 grind. That's just what I believe. Now, I'm not saying that any of these I have any proof. I don't. But what I believe is that everybody on that level was using. I don't care what player it is. If you were in the game and you were at the major league level, I believe at some point, for some reason, whether it was to bulk up or to get through minor injuries, I believe that people were using.
Yeah, I mean, and I agree. I was just reading Troy Garman. I actually agree with him, even though he wanted you to talk over me earlier. But if Griffey stayed healthy, would have went down as the greatest of all time, no doubt. I think I can agree with that. I think I can agree with that. Just the center field he played. I mean, this is a guy who had some horrific injuries. He had his hamstring rip off the bone at one point and had to get it grafted back on, came back and played pretty well. That wasn't a great Cincinnati contract, though.
I just don't know he gets to Bonds' level. I just don't. I think
that's another thing where we'll never be able to know.
Yeah, but I just think it was Bonds and then everybody. I mean, Bonds was it 41 times in his career with nobody on base?
I just think at some point there, yeah. I mean, it's insane.
It's crazy.
It's insane. I mean, some of it's insane. His like OPS was like 1,700 in one season. Like his on base percentage was like 600 or something like that, like 550 in one season, which is just ridiculous. But I mean, I just think if you're going to have steroids, you have them for sure. I mean, and I don't even know if the testing is possible this way. You have them for only certain reasons or all reasons that everybody is on steroids, because it's the same thing as the Houston Astros. You had some guys, some pitchers who actually sued the Houston Astros because they were out of the league because they had some really bad games against the Houston Astros when the Houston Astros were using a trash can to cheat on the game. Well, same thing with Bonds. I mean, if there's some pitchers who are coming in who, were out of the game because they faced Bonds when he was in, this crazy run that he was on, that he would not have been on without steroids. I'm sorry. He wouldn't have a 600 OPS at 39 if he wasn't on steroids. He just wouldn't have been. There's some pitchers who played probably in his division that weren't pitchers anymore, that weren't in the league anymore because of that. So, I mean, there is those small little details where it's like, okay, if you do want to have steroids in the league, how much steroids are we going to have? Are we going to have them all? Okay, let's go nuts. Okay, you can use steroids. Then I understand that. Or if there's some way to test them where, hey, you can have steroids, but only these certain kind of steroids, we can test for those. I just don't know. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a doctor. I'm barely even a podcaster at this point.
But I play one on TV.
I play one on TV.
Or on YouTube, either way.
Oh. Doubting Thomas, Combs, Greg Mannix, juicing or no?
Yes, but again,
whoa!
Juicing, but not. I'm not saying there's a difference between juicing to bulk up and juicing to get through minor injuries. Back then, you couldn't. If you were out for a year with injury, you were most likely going to lose your spot. And the players back then didn't want to give that.
No, why would you?
So I think that everybody at some point used to an extent. I'm not saying anybody was like going crazy with it. Not everybody was changing hat sizes and shoe sizes and juicing the way that.
Could you imagine if Frank Thomas was like totally juicing? I don't even know what he would have turned into.
He was a massive human being.
I mean, he was a tight end at Auburn.
Would you put it
blocking tight end at Auburn?
Came out that he had a partially torn ligament in a knee one year, and playing first base, he needed something to get him through, and that he took us to get through.
He did have some torn ligaments in those legs when he was playing first base. Yeah.
Would you be shocked if it came out that he used something to get through that to keep going?
I would be more pissed off than shocked. I guess I would be a little bit surprised just because he came out and said specifically he never did it.
They all said that, though. Don't you remember freaking
Rafael Palmeiro?
In the middle of
pointing at people,
just pointing at it. For Call, yes, absolutely. I believe for Call did. I think they.
Julio Franco for sure. The guy was like 48 still playing or something like that. Some crazy age. I remember he had like when Mark Pryor was one of the best pitchers in the league for like a year and a half or maybe 8 months. He was like 45.
I will tell you yes to every single name you throw at me. In that,
yeah, he's already a yes on everything. It seems like he's hungry for steroids.
To some degree, yes.
Brandon Combs on steroids?
Bro, yes! if you are telling me
Brandon Combs is on steroids.
You are telling me that my best player, if you're telling me right now, Kyle Tucker, has a torn ligament in his elbow or in his knee or in his throwing shoulder, and a steroid he would be able to play if he was on a steroid, and it would help it heal as he played, I would absolutely be okay with him taking it because it keeps him in the game.
Yeah.
Why would you be pissed off if Frank Thomas did it? Because it kept him playing.
I'd be pissed because of what he said. He said, test me, test me right now. I'll take a test right now. I mean, he even said that. He's on the record saying that. Like, he was not just saying it. He was pissed off that other guys took it and was calling them out too. Like, he was not just did he not take, did he say he not took them? He was going after guys that, hey, I did not win the 2000 MVP, which actually his stats were better than Jason Giambi's, and Jason Giambi was a known, was caught with it, was a known steroid guy, like turned himself into a mutant, all that. He's in Jose Canseco's book, where Jose Canseco looks at him and says the acne on the back and I could see the water in the shower like going through his back. I don't even know how that works, but yeah, where Jason Giambi was definitely on steroids, and Frank Thomas has come out to say like he shouldn't be playing right now. Like he took my MVP from me. Frank Thomas was second in the MVP. He had a huge season in 2000 when the Sox went to not the World Series, but when the Sox went to the playoffs, had the best record in the league, had the best hitting team in the league, but couldn't pitch and lost to the.
Maybe I should here. Let me put it this way. Maybe you could get me to believe that there are a couple of players that maybe didn't use it during the course of their career, but it would be hard pressed for me to believe it, just because, again, I think to some extent it helps you continue your career, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with the best players in baseball staying on the field. Could you imagine if we had no injuries for Ken Griffey Jr.
Or injuries that he could have, maybe, who knows? If he didn't take them, then you start saying like, God, how good would he have been if he did at least take some to get over some of these little he had nagging injuries too, and everybody knows how injured he was. He was even injured at the end of that 98 season. People don't remember he was in that home run race until late in the season and then got hurt.
Pedro was juicing. But Doubting Thomas, I would ask if instead of you coming to the house, could you please?
Oh my God!
What?
You just can't help yourself.
Do more damage.
You're a sick person.
I'm more scared of her than I am of him.
Maybe I'll come over.
I'm still more scared of Megan than I am of you. Wow.
What?
I mean, that's your problem.
It's weird.
At any rate,
Jeremiah checking in. It's all popularity. Ortiz got caught. We already talked about that. Jeff Bagwell, such a nice guy. We'll let him in. Jeff Bagwell's a good name. I always thought he was.
Didn't
he not win a World Series in 2005 for some reason? Didn't he not?
But didn't
You're pointing to a poster note.
Didn't Biggio hop on one? I could have sworn Biggio was on the report too.
It's possible.
Wow, because he's so tiny. But there were a lot of tiny players that
I mean, you could still, like you said, to get off injuries or just give yourself that other 10 pounds of muscle, that 20 pounds of muscle.
The fringe players, like guys like Rafael Furcal, the guys like that if they take 6 months off and they called a player up, they were going to lose their spot. Absolutely, those guys.
Yeah, Juan Gonzalez, definitely a juicer.
Absolutely, that's what I'm trying to get at, though.
I think there's guys these days that are taking HGH, getting around the stuff. I mean, even the UFC, who had guys who had probably the most stringent testing ever. I don't think they have the same testing. I forgot the name of it. But They had the most stringent testing. Like they wake up guys up at like 5 a.m. to test them. Even the guys got away with it with that. So there's still guys doing it. Obviously, someone just got caught, but there's guys still getting away with it. The designer steroids that you can't even test for, HGH, things like that.
Yes, and again, I'm okay with it. If it keeps your stars on the field, I'm okay with it. If you're telling me that last year Fernando Tatis Jr., who got suspended after coming back from injury. And he came out and said that he apologized for it. He's like, I was trying to heal quicker. Okay.
Wasn't that his second pop though?
No, it was his first, I believe. It might have been his second, but I'm pretty sure it was his first. As Andrew Vaughn comes in to pinch hit and immediately pops up on the first pitch.
Yes, that's kind of what you got to do. Combs is juicing. Thank you, Troy. I already said it once. I'll say it again. It's not doing a lot for him.
My fat ass is juicing.
It's not doing a lot for him, but
I am juicing. You know what? There's a lot of rum in my juice. There's a lot of tequila, some vodka,
some screwball.
Yeah. But yeah, no, that's why I believe that these guys belong in the Hall of Fame. I just do. And if they were a Hall of Fame player, despite the home run numbers, and I think that you let them in. And when it comes to pitchers, you let them in. They were juicing because they were playing against hitters that were juiced.
Yeah.
The same way, with the, all of a sudden you have all of these different spin rates and everything they're doing with the ball now. Guys are throwing 103 miles an hour. And the way people were complaining about those torpedo bats at the beginning of the season, you have to do something to compete on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, you do.
Stay up with the other side. You just do. So you got to let these guys in and stop with the postmortem stuff. If you're going to let guys in on a banned list after postmortem, you just let them in. Just let them in. Because why did they have to wait till they die? All of a sudden after they die, it makes what they did less egregious. They get put on the bans list. You know what I mean? Like everybody believes that Shoeless Joe was the innocent victim of that Black Sox scandal. But now 100 years later, 107 years later, now all of a sudden it's different.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, it's one of the reasons why I don't really exactly love the conversation, because you can go in circles. There's nothing to prove it. There's no stats. I mean, I know we talk about stats, but there's no real stats that tell me, he was definitely juicing. He wasn't juicing. This is what the juicing did for him. He wouldn't have been in the Hall of Fame. This guy would be in the Hall of Fame. Even baseball's Hall of Fame, they're letting a lot of guys in, especially the NFL. I see people bitch about the NFL Hall of Fame, and it's like everybody pretty much gets let in. Like, what are we talking about here? Sure.
Rose, not a Hall of Famer? Dead Pete Rose? Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Garmer says, in all seriousness, MLB should not profit a one dime off of Rose. F them. I mean, they've already profited off of Pete Rose. I mean, they just have. Same thing with the steroid era players. And then as soon as their hand got caught in the cookie jar, they threw them all under the bus. It's like, oh, we didn't know. Yeah, you did. You didn't know that Sammy Sosa went from wearing a size extra small jersey to wearing a double X around his arm. Get the hell out of here. Such a joke.
The Bud Selig argument.
All right. Now we got that nonsense out of the way. Let's get to some more nonsense. You ready for Fitz gibberish?
I was born ready. Yes, it's Fitz gibberish. It's a diatribe, it's conspiracy theory, and it's an island in the middle of unapologetic and sometimes inaccurate sports talk. I did call Shane Smith Shane Smith. Not really sure where the hell that came from, but yeah, that's just part of the show. Part of the show. We don't get everything right. This broadcasting thing might not work out, but anyway, cheating. You say, Combs, cheating. You say, I'll give you cheating. On February 25th of this year, Michael Rosenberg and Pat Ford came out with a great groundbreaking article for Sports Illustrated And then it was nestled under the never-ending pile of the modern American news cycle. This article starts. Last month, a little-known sports gambler who calls himself the best that ever did it attempted to board a flight from Las Vegas to Colombia, connecting through Panama with a one-way ticket. Shane Hennon soon found himself in an upright and locked position. Federal agents who arrested him say he was carrying multiple cell phones, nearly $10,000 in cash, which I always carry on my flights, and an alibi he offered, unprompted, by the way. He was traveling to Colombia for dental treatment. Seems like a long way to go for a dentist. But anyway, authorities say Hennon helped orchestrate what appears to be one of the most pervasive point shaving scandals in North American sports history. End quote of that article. They lay out a disturbing story about Jonte Porter, who was banned from basketball for life for some people might have heard this, for taking himself out of games for money to pay his gambling nets. Terry Rozier of the Miami Heat, a more prominent player, has also been implicated, and it doesn't stop there. No, it doesn't. There is a pile of evidence that shows this affected college games, with schools like Temple and Duke being implicated. They go with evidence on one such Temple game. Money poured in on Alabama Birmingham Temple, which no one's watching domestically, that skewed the betting lines, both for the first half and the entire game, well outside of the normal line of movement. At one sportsbook, for example, the line jumped from Alabama Birmingham being favored by 2.5 points to being favored by 8 points. The Blazers rolled to a 15-point lead at halftime and won a 28-point victory. That game aroused enough scrutiny that it made news immediately, but it followed a pattern that had built up over a month of games. So very pervasive gambling and point shaving, not just in the NBA, but in the NCAA. I won't read more about the story, but I do recommend everyone read it. And this Shane Hennon is one of these scumbags who sells his picks on the internet as well. I'm sure we've all seen such scumbags. Yeah. Obviously, he's been in jail for abusing girlfriends, selling cocaine, etc., etc. The prosecution argues they have him dead to rights with emails, texts, and bets they can see on his Instagram account. Oh my God.
Oh boy.
Why do people keep putting stuff on their Instagram and Twitter accounts? Stop.
Unbelievable.
As more of the story pours in, it's hard not to say betting in American sports has hit a critical mass. Sure, Jim Harbaugh can tell all the reporters he wants that football is the last bastion of toughness for young men. But when the Sunday night game is brought to you by DraftKings with a halftime show paid by BetGM, I have my doubts. You cannot tell me the NFL is all about the gridiron and toughness and make it basically illegal to tackle from behind. No wonder people speculate the NFL is scripted. It sometimes resembles an improvised wrestling match with more padding. And I have joked that the NFL is basketball with traveling, but the NBA has almost made traveling legal. Soon, will these sports even be able to be discernible from each other? When one player gets hacked and the refs say that was in the flow of the end of the game, and another player gets breathed on wrong and it's a foul that ends the game in the NBA, it leaves many fans wondering, what the hell is going on here? What in the Pete Rose is real anymore in sports? When Alice went through the looking glass, there was more horror than Wonderland. But it's high time we sports fans open our eyes to what gambling has done to sports in this country. It's why the two were separated for so long, and we weren't even allowed to have a team in Las Vegas. Now it's hard to say if the tail hasn't started to wag the dog. According to Rosenberg and Ford's stellar investigation, it's high time we walk through that looking glass. I should know. I've taken a lot of mind altering looking glasses in my day for simply scientific reasons, because I am a scientist, or maybe I'm not. And I'm still here to say, you beautiful American pod people, that even though it might be scary, it's time to wake up to what we are watching in any way we can. I'm not ruling out psychedelics, but if you end up naked in a tree covered in mud and chanting, you're doing it wrong. And don't say I didn't tell you so. And that's Fitz gibberish, my friends. Even though Combs' head is so far up BetQL's ass, he can taste the last dude's syphilis. I go to him for comment. Combs.
Well, if you've been paying attention to your co-host's time, the BetQL network is now the BetMGM network.
God damn it!
And so, yeah, I don't even have to say. I mean, you said it so perfectly. I don't really have to say anything. I mean, it was really well done, really well written. I don't normally say that about your Fitz gibberishes.
No, but that's fine. That means I earn it when you say it.
Yeah, it really was. There's really not much for me to add on that. It may or may not have anything to do with the fact that I was looking up stats instead of listening. But for right now, we're gonna say it's because it was well written, and I don't have anything to add.
You're an asshole.
I'm just joking. I'm joking.
I think you've read it. Yeah. Doubting Thomas says Fitz must be juicing. Probably true. But I mean, I think there's going to be a lot more articles like this coming out. I think there's a lot of players that gamble on sports, a lot of smaller players, even bigger players. It's going to get pretty weird. We had the whole Shohei Ohtani thing last year. Does anybody believe he wasn't betting?
No.
Does anybody?
And the NCAA now is flirting with passing a law that will allow its players to bet on pro sports, not collegiate sports, but allow them to bet on pro sports. And I think the more that you look at this type of stuff, and when you look at the league making, all of the leagues now making money on betting and on sports gambling. You go to Wrigley Field, you've got the DraftKings Sportsbook right in the bottom of the stadium. You go to, there's teams in Vegas now, and we know all about the sports books over there. I don't have as big of a problem with it as long as they are not betting on themselves, and as long as they are not betting on their teams in any of the games that they are involved in. They should not be allowed to bet, and as long as that does not happen, that should be okay. Because if I'm with the Cubs and I want to bet that the Brewers are going to lose today, I should be able to do that. If I want to bet on teams in my division to lose, what's the problem in that? What's the harm?
Well, I'm just saying you might have insider information. You might have.
But even sometimes you could have insider information. Sometimes hey, I'm going to bet on the Brewers to lose today because I know that their pitcher is sick. I'm friends with him. He called me last night. He's got the flu. He's going.
I think this is the point why they banned it. I think there's. I don't
just because they throw that the Brewers are going to win that game.
I just think it's a slippery slope. There's a reason why Breaking Bad was one of the best shows ever made. I think it's a slippery slope. You don't just cook up meth and then sell it to people and then pay your cancer, treatment bills, and then that's it. You don't become a drug kingpin like Walter White becomes in Breaking Bad. I just think you get into the gambling game, you get in with people like these Shane Hennon guys who are obviously not good people. Sorry, they're just not. There's some bad people out there. I'll just tell you right now. I think you know this, but you get involved with these people. That's how you bet. I mean, I guess you can go on the app, you can bet there too, but some of the larger bets, I mean, is that all you didn't want to bet?
If you make it legal, then you get less of them having to go through those fishy people, because they don't have to go through shady people to place these bets. Now they can just do it on their app and it's okay. You get what I'm saying? So I think you can control it that way. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it's going to be a perfect system. And I understand the insider trading type idea. And trust me, I get the concern with that. Like if I'm going to bet on the Brewers, but I've got a good friend on the Brewers, and I say, hey, just so you know, I'm going to put $10,000 down for you to, go under your home run prop, under a half a home run. You know what I mean? Like, is this guy going out and not trying to hit a home run? Is this guy going out and just hacking at a ball and trying to, shoot it the opposite way? I understand all of that stuff, but I feel like you can control it by allowing it to become legal because they're less likely to try to hide it. They're less likely to try to curb
Not
it.
put it on their Instagram page.
Right, exactly.
I mean, this guy was putting bets on his Instagram page.
It's dumb. It's stupid. But yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think
Coke
that
is a powerful drug. Cocaine is a powerful drug.
as long as you're not betting on your own team or yourself, because I don't want you to be, especially in like basketball, right? Because if a player is betting on himself, they just suspended somebody, I forget who it was, for betting on his own stats. You could either become a selfish player and try to take over a game because you bet your over points, and instead of doling an assist out when a guy's wide open, you might be taking a contested three or something because you're trying to win your bet. So that stuff I have more of a problem with than I do if a pro player is gambling on a different team. As the Cubs are in business right now.
I just think if you're not, well, yeah, I mean the Sox can't catch the ball, but you got a guy in left field who doesn't play left field, he plays the infield. I just think you get it. You bring it into sports. This was one of the worries. This is why they didn't bring gambling into sports for years. Just so everybody knows, this was why they didn't. Because you bring gambling into sports, it becomes commonplace. Things like this are going to happen. The problems with these dummies is books know exactly what kind of action to expect on every game. Big/abnormal player prop bets will set off alarms every time. And they did. Like I said, in that one bet, that Tampa, Birmingham, Alabama game, that set off a lot of alarms. They have independent companies who now do this and find these. They probably have algorithms that go over it. The AI is probably looking at it now.
Yeah.
Which, to me, is kind of sad, but I'm not going to go down that road with AI. But I mean, you can almost not get away with anything anymore.
Yeah, I mean, AI is a different animal. There's all sorts of issues with AI that you could think of, but people know when things are amiss, and that's why a lot of these players, when they do actually do this, they get caught, and not all of them have an interpreter that is willing to take the fall for them. So
TV says we all just want to think that sports have an underlying sense of morality and fairness, so gambling corrupts that feeling. Yeah, I mean, so does steroids in a way.
Yeah,
I think that's why the whole steroids thing happened. I think gambling's the same way. I think that's why that's why teams were just not allowed. I mean, not in any league to have a team in Las Vegas, and you're going to have every sport have a team in Las Vegas at some point.
What's the difference right now?
Let's do it anyway.
What's the difference right now if I bet the over in Nuggets and OKC right now in Game 7, or if one of the Bulls players right now who are done with their season bets Denver OKC to go over the points total?
I just think and I could be off here. I could be wrong here. I just think gambling is a different community. I think that the community of gambling, making it more widespread, I just think makes people more corruptible if they're in on being able to gamble on anything. I mean, I just think that that's obviously going to happen. I mean, gambling, you definitely have a dopamine spike. It's definitely a drug. Like, it's like people who don't think candy's a drug. It is. It gives you a dopamine spike. Even going on social media, even having a podcast, you get a little bit of a dopamine spike. But it is. I mean, gambling is definitely a drug. There's many addicts that are probably in a meeting right now for gambling. I think it's a slippery slope. I think You gamble on that, you're going to gamble on other things. I don't know. I don't know all the ins and outs of it, but once you're in that gambling world, and especially because, like what Doubting Thomas said, these people know when you're gambling on the wrong things, you're going to then take it underground. You're not going to go to a sports book and gamble on something, or you're not going to go to a reputable sports book and gamble on something that you know is going to be a bet that's a little outside the lines. You're going to start going to these other places to do it.
Boy, we should have booked Michael Jordan for this segment.
Or his dad. Too soon? It's been 30 years.
The man was murdered, sir. Oh,
there is a conspiracy out there.
See, you do a Fitz gibberish and then you just lose it.
We were having a nice, educated conversation.
Now you're saying we should have booked somebody who was murdered for reasons unknown to us, or whatever. Anyway. Bears.
Oh, palate cleanser. Bears palate cleanser.
Let's start with the draft. Okay. You and I have not talked about the draft yet. At least not on air. We talked a little bit about it. I was okay with the first 2 days. I was good with their first, 5 picks. I was good with those. Not so much the third day. The constantly trading down in the 4th and 5th round, when you had edge rushers galore, when you had shots at different running backs. And I know their running backs were taken, they said that a lot of the running backs they were looking at were taken just before their pick, and there was nothing that they could do about that. So they ended up trading down. But you still had edge rushers available. And I didn't understand the logic behind that, behind not building depth on the edges. I don't. Megan's no longer my favorite.
Snowflake, go.
I was okay with it up until then, and that's where I was like, I just the thought process behind it was a little confusing for me. How did you feel about the draft?
I mean, I agree with you there. I don't think they had a great draft. I don't think a lot of teams had a great draft. I don't think it was a great draft to begin with. When you don't have a lot of quarterbacks in a draft, you see what happens. Not a lot of these guys drop to people in the later rounds, the people, that were sitting where the Bears were sitting. But I thought Jeremiah had a great point when we did the show right after the draft, and he said like some of these picks in microcosm, just as the one pick, weren't exactly bad picks. It's okay to take Loveland as a tight end, but it's hard to take Loveland as a tight end at 10 and then take a wide receiver right after him in Luther. I don't know. I don't get the reasoning there. Really, for a team that was one of the worst offensive lines and one of the worst defensive lines in the league last year, where we said there had to be a lot of work done on these. Now they end up getting a guy on the offensive line who's supposed to be pretty good. Boston College, Trapillo, whatever. Trapillo. Yeah. Who's supposed to be pretty good. Looks like a swing tackle though. But that just a team with a lot of different needs, and one was not the wide receiver room. But you didn't get a safety either. You don't have a safety. You didn't get a safety either. Jaquan Spritzer's brain is scrambled. Excuse me, I'm talking.
My question is, so who did you want them to take instead of Burden?
Well, I'd like to look at the edge rushers, like you said, that were available there. I have no idea which offensive linemen were out there, but an edge rusher would have been great there. I mean, I think that was, or a safety, either one of those three, other than another wide receiver, for a wide receiver room that was pretty good. I mean, Look, I could be totally. I mean, I could be totally wrong. I'm not in the draft room. I don't know who they had on their sheet. But like I said, if you're taking Loveland at 10, and then you're taking a wide receiver right after that, after the season they had, after the Super Bowl is played, and a defensive and offensive line basically wins the game for their team. And then you go out and you get a tight end, which I said I would never have a problem with. That pick, I neither love nor hate. But when you get a wide receiver right after that, that makes me scratch my head a little bit.
Yeah, I didn't have a problem with the Loveland pick over having him over Tyler Warren, because I felt like he fit the system better. And the reason why I was okay with tight end there was because Will Campbell was off the board. Mason Graham was off the board. Armand Membu was off the board.
Yeah.
Junior was off the board. So the top 4 offensive tackles were already off the board. And then you already had, obviously, you were hoping maybe Mason Graham or Ashton Genty fall to you. And once the Jaguars traded up to 2, you knew you weren't getting back in, because that was the trade partner with the Bears at 5, was the Jaguars. And then they were able to move up to 2 to get Travis Hunter. So it was a great move for them. But
yeah,
when you don't have any of these things fall to you, that's when Kelvin Banks got taken at 9, that's when I was okay with Loveland at 10, even though Mikael Williams was still there, the edge rusher from Georgia, even Shamar Stewart from Texas A&M. I was okay, because not only did you upgraded the tight end position, but you also made it for in I think 2 years when you lose I'm gonna forget his name now, the tight end that they have already,
Cole Kmet.
Komet. When you lose Komet in 2 years, you've already got his replacement ready, right? Because you don't have to necessarily pay Komet, because he hasn't been everything that you thought that he was going to be when you drafted him. So I was okay.
Not a bad contract
for
them.
Yeah, and then when you look at the Burden pick, I thought it was a pick of luxury as well, and you still had a couple of edge rushers off the board. The Ezeraku guy from Boston College. You still had trying to think of some of these other guys' name. Nick Scorton, the other Texas A&M edge rusher, was still out there. So you still had guys that were still out there, but you made up for it later with the Ozzie Trapillo and the Shamar Turner picks. I felt like they were able to still get their picks of need and still supplement picks of desire, and still supplement what they needed with picks that will be viable for them. I liked it in the fact as well that you could tell that the McCaskies have released the rein, and that Ryan Poles went into this, and Kevin Warren went into this saying, all right, we hired Ben Johnson. What does he want? Let Ben Johnson make these picks. And that's what they did. And I firmly believe that. That's why I was okay with it, because if you're going to believe in Ben Johnson, you have to start believing in the process.
Jeremiah says the edge from BC was there when they took Burden. I would have loved that pick. I think that's the guy you were probably referencing.
I think, what was his Scorton? Is that who it was? What the hell was his name?
And yeah, I mean, I would have liked it. Other than that, I mean, it's not like something. I just think it's a little bit egotistical to take a wide receiver there. It's the same thing as taking a punter in the 4th round last year. Like your roster.
Ezeraku was his name.
Yeah, but what was his name?
Ezeraku.
Okay. Yeah, your roster is not perfect right now. Like it still isn't. Like in my mind, it isn't. And there's a little bit of you acting like it is when you take a wide receiver when you already got the first pick of the draft last year, and you just paid a guy $28 million a year to be your number 1 wide receiver, at least your number 2 wide receiver. Like, it's just a little bit much for me. I still think they had an okay draft. I mean, you're right. They did get their 2 tackles, their offensive tackle and their defensive. Looks like he'll be a defensive tackle. But
Yeah. And again, when you're trading down, like they had I believe it was a 9th pick in the 4th round, and they traded that down. And then you end up with the linebacker out of Maryland and Za Frazier, the cornerback, and Monungai ultimately in the 7th round as your running back. I mean, you had the opportunity to draft those. So when they came back in the reasoning was the guys that they were going to take were gone ahead of their pick. You could have taken them earlier, but you traded the damn pick. So I didn't understand the idea behind, Scadaboo was still there. There was still a couple other.
Yeah, they wanted their 4th round pick back from what's his name? From getting the tackle / guard from the Chiefs. They wanted their 4th round pick back for next year, which it's like, I mean, he was like so worried about that. It was one of the first things he said in the press conference. It's like, what?
Yeah. And
take another punter?
I don't know. I don't know. I didn't understand it, but again, I still feel like the Bears their roster lacks a little bit of depth, especially on the offensive line. I still need to see maybe a couple more veteran signings somewhere here. Maybe after OTAs are over, you get some of these veterans that are just holding out until after OTAs are over because they don't want to go to OTAs or feel obligated to go to OTAs, which is why Aaron Rodgers still is not a Pittsburgh Steeler just yet. So I still think that the Bears have some work to do now when it comes to the schedule thing, and we'll get to the Caleb Williams stuff here in just a minute. But I feel like their schedule, and I know the road opponents are ridiculously tough this year, but I feel like it was spread out in such a way where you could feel okay about this schedule. The fact that they don't have any of those 3 games in 10-day type things, I'm not extremely excited about a week 5 bye week. I would like my bye week a little bit. As a matter of fact, I said this earlier today. I would like the NFL to go to the bye week starting in week 8 and just add a couple of extra teams per week to the bye, because a bye week in week 5 does a team no good. I don't believe. It's kind of a crappy situation to have a bye. But where you go with the Bears, where you got, you open against the Vikings, which I think was a complete miss by the NFL because they play the Lions in week 2 in Detroit, and you could have had that in week 1 and had Ben to Detroit week 1. It just seemed like a no-brainer to me, but they go with the Vikings week 1, Lions, Cowboys, Raiders, then they get the bye week. So who knows where they're going to be? Who knows where some of these teams are going to be? But I think that they could be 3-1 going into that bye week, and then you got to go to Washington, which is going to be another tough game. You got some ghosts there. It'd be a great to go see Ben Johnson go in there and exercise some demons from last year. You get the Saints. Now, this is where it gets a little tricky because now you got the Ravens and the Bengals on the road. Don't love that. Don't love going to Baltimore and then going to Cincinnati the very next week. Not a big fan of that, but I mean, at some point you figured you were going to get sandwiched with some back-to-back road games with all of these road opponents because they're out of division road schedule is Raiders, Commanders, Ravens, Bengals, Eagles, and Niners. So for me, that's
maybe I'm getting hungry.
They're spread out far enough, and like that Bengals and Ravens back to back on the road is sandwiched between the Saints and the Giants at home. So you kind of feel like, okay, you might lose 2 straight there, or maybe you find a way to win one of those games. You might lose 2 straight there, but you do have 2 really soft games. And by the time the Giants come in week, whatever it is, 8 or 9, you might be seeing Jackson Dart for the first time. It might be his first game.
Yeah, the Giants are not going to be good. That's one team. Yeah, there's a lot of teams in the NFL where you don't. Hey, who knows how these teams are going to fall? Some of these teams. I don't see the Vikings being good this year either, but who knows? I mean, no one saw them being as good as they were last year in the regular season. We're just talking regular season. But you can't really say. But with the Giants, you can pretty much book they're only going to win 4 or 5
How
games.
long does the Russell Wilson experiment last when they go to Washington, to the Cowboys, then they play the Chiefs, the Chargers, then they get the Saints, but then they get the Eagles, Broncos, 49ers, Bears. So I don't know how long the Russell Wilson experiment is going to last. I'm not going to. And so you could see Jackson Dart by the time you get there, and who knows what he's going to be. But if you are going to be a playoff contending team, if you were going to be a team that contends for the North, which a lot of people are picking them to do this year, and I gotta tell you, Fitzy, as much as we were on this bandwagon last year, I can't get past 9-8 on this schedule, man. I just can't. There might be a couple of games that they win that they're not supposed to that I don't see coming, but I just, man, 9-8 I think is a good ceiling to have for this Bears team.
Yeah, and it sucks that we're still doing this now. I have them at 8-9 just right now. I mean, let's see what happens. Jeremiah is still wheeling and dealing over here. Bengals call and say a second and a fifth for Hendrickson. You doing it? Hendrickson is not happy.
Yes, I would do a second and a fifth for Hendrickson. I would do a second, a fifth, and DJ Moore for Hendrickson.
What?
Absolutely, 110%. Absolutely. DJ Moore looked like he wasn't happy here last year. DJ Moore looked like he didn't want to be here last year. And there was
and still had a pretty good season.
Right, but there's a big part of me that thinks that DJ Moore could be a problem in that locker room.
Would you want to be here as an offensive player last year?
Well, no, but I mean, I want my veterans around my rookie quarterback to not show him up. To not walk past the backup and be like, hey, get ready. You're going to get a lot of time this year. I don't want that stuff happening. And that's the stuff that DJ Moore was doing last year. So if you're telling me that they've got other wide receivers and they can do that, I would, for Trey Hendrickson, come on. Has he got 36 sacks in the last 2 seasons? Come on.
Yeah, I mean, he's been pretty good. He said if he had 4 sacks, they'd be wanting to pay him less. I think he just came out with that quote. Megan TV says likens overlooking new leadership to Shador being an asshole in his interviews. So has the NFL caught up to you about calling Shador Sanders saying that the Saints were taking him?
I
think Jeremiah agrees with you. Yup, the Bengals need receivers. No, they're not getting rid of DJ Moore.
Yeah, the Bengals need receivers. What are you kidding me? The Bengals have 2 receivers that they just paid $100 million each to.
I think he's saying that sarcastically. It's very hard to be sarcastic in the comment box.
I'm just saying that's what I would give up for Trey Hendrickson. What I would be willing to give up for Trey Hendrickson. I throw in Luis Robert too.
Yeah. He wins that one, I think.
Yeah.
Luis Robert might be bad.
He's gonna be bad.
But go on.
But yeah, no, I think that the Bears, where were we going with this? I forget where the hell we were at. Great radio. I think that the Bears, heading into this season, I think that people have to temper expectations. I also, I'm not going to give him excuses this year, with the exception of this. I need to see Caleb Williams improve. I need to see him to continue to improve. I will give him this, though, especially at the start of the season. He's heading into his second season as a quarterback. He's on his 3rd play caller. So if there is a little bit of time, 2 weeks, 3 weeks to get used to how the offense is going to work, I will understand that. But you still have to be better. Like I am expecting to see you threw for 3,500 yards last year in one of the worst offensive schemes I've ever seen in my life. I'm expecting you to go for 4,000 yards in a Ben Johnson offense. So I'm expecting to see that.
I'm not grading on a bell curve here. I'm in
not
my
talking about a
fucking
bell curve,
40s.
but I will
I want a winner.
have some ease with him heading into, because a third play caller heading into your second season, the start of your second season, it's still a lot for any young quarterback. I don't care how good you're supposed to be.
Boy, Thomas says the Bears will have a winning record. I don't get him.
9-8
I
is a
just
winning
don't.
record. I have him at 9-8. That's a winning record.
I have him at 8-9. I think that's kind of I mean, I have no trust in this. And we both said it. We both agreed we'd have no trust in this team. And then you come out on here because you're full of fucking shit. And then you say, and then you say 9-8.
What is wrong with 9-8?
I think it's a little trust. It's
They
one
had
game
5
away
wins
from
last
being
year
definitely in
with
the playoff.
the
It's probably a playoff team.
They had
What?
5 wins last year with the worst coaching staff you've ever seen. So you're telling me a 4-win improvement with the most thought effort?
We're gonna do this again. We're gonna do this again. Where they were what? The year before they were 7 and
Did you not
whatever
just
they
bring up
were.
Megan's, where it says the new leadership and tone is so underestimated? It is underestimated. I agree with
Especially in football. I agree with that too, especially in football. But it's this organization. I'm not going to put trust into them until I see it on the field.
But do you not believe that this team is going to have more accountability, better coaching? Do you not believe that there is going to be a better in the locker room?
If they an improvement to the last coaching staff is that they just have someone sitting next to Caleb Williams while he's watching film. That would be improvement.
And how bad? I mean, how much of an indictment is that on? Again, we go back to this. How much of an indictment is that on Ryan Poles?
I know you don't know this kid is watching tape by himself.
Yeah,
like you don't even know what's going on with your team.
To tell him no, that's your job, not ours.
Yeah, and again, keeping Eberflus could have. I mean, it's just keeping him for an extra year. And you have the same people who are okay with that, making the tough decisions, making the decision to take a receiver. And if they have, 18 sacks this season, you're going to point to that because that's more important than a rookie wide receiver who might have 600 yards this year. And that'll be a great receiving year for a rookie wide receiver. But that's not the same as drafting a guy that might have 8 or 9 sacks. I mean, it's not as big. 8 or 9 sacks in a season every couple of a sack every couple of games is a lot bigger. I mean, if they get Hendrickson, maybe it's a moot point, but then you have all the cap space you're making for him now, and all the cap space you now have in the offensive line because you couldn't draft offensive linemen.
So give me what is your bottom line to see from Caleb Williams this year to believe that the Bears got it right with him? Like, is it 4,000 yards? For me, it's I want to see 4,000 yards, 25 to 30 touchdowns, and less than 15 interceptions, because there is going to be with an offense that is opened up, and you're going to be taking more chances with Ben Johnson. You're going to throw more interceptions.
I don't like 15 interceptions, but I want to see a better completion percentage. I definitely do. I mean, I thought that was the big thing,
right?
That was what's that?
He completed 63.5% of his passes last year. That's the league average.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, I really don't. I mean, I don't know if it was 63.5. Maybe it was, but the down the field throws that he missed, some glaring throws that he missed last year, were hard not to pay attention to a little bit. I mean, there was a lot of throws that this kid can make. At least he made them in cup. What is it?
62.5.
62.5. That's still below the league average, I think, isn't it?
I'm gonna look it up right now. Go ahead.
I don't know. He missed a lot of throws downfield that I did not expect him to miss. I did not expect him to miss the way he missed those throws too. He seemed like a guy that was afraid to throw interceptions. Maybe he'll be a guy now with the offense wide open that will be able to make some of those tight throws that he wasn't able to make last year. A better completion percentage. I don't know about yardage. Sometimes
average last year was 66%. which has grown steadily since 1980, which was 56% was the league average.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's the different rules that are
for sure.
messing with that. And quarterback play has, I think, gotten better. I mean, at least nowadays, you get some grace. He was a rookie on a bad team. Yeah, I agree. But I'm just saying the look. There was a lot of throws he missed where it was like, what was that?
Yeah.
Early in games, not when he was rattled. Early in the season, a lot of points in the season where it was like, what the hell is going on?
Jeremiah says going to make the only prediction a Bears fan can make. The Bears will play football this year. Well, look, that's already an improvement from last year.
Yeah. I mean, when you're doing speed options on the 2-yard line in Indianapolis and all of your offensive linemen fall down, that's a problem. I think another thing we talked about, and if I can just bring up the video again, was a little bit of this.
Roger, but I just got off the phone with the president, Donald Trump. He asked me to pass a message along to all 32 NFL franchises. So let me tell you what it reads here, all right? It says, my fellow Americans, the Bears still suck! Let's go!
Let's take the Trump thing out of it.
How would you play that?
I'm just saying, let's take the Trump thing out of it.
We are a Chicago sports pocket. Why would
Because my take on it was the Green Bay Packers fans and the Green Bay Packers are feeling themselves a little bit too much. It was the first time they took a receiver in the first round since like 2002 or something like that. I mean, do they know Jordan Love is not going to be a top 10 quarterback? Probably ever. Maybe he will be one season or two seasons. I don't know. But he's definitely never going to be a top 5 quarterback. He does nothing great. I don't think there's anything he does great. And it was like every other thing in the draft was Bears suck, Bears suck, Bears suck. Yes, the Bears do suck. You win. You're basically beating up a dead horse at this point. My take on it was, I'm just saying, I think, I mean, I don't see where this Green Bay team is going to be great this year. I don't see where this division is going to be great. I don't have the Vikings being great this year. I think Detroit's going to take a step back.
Green Bay, Wisconsin! Is that all you got? Come on, you can be louder than that! I know y'all mad because championship gold looks good on the blue and orange. But in all seriousness, Green Bay, we are in the shadow of Lambeau Field. And I love Lambeau Field because the king of the North, the best quarterback in the NFC North, Caleb Williams, is undefeated at Lambeau Field.
Now that's the video you should freaking be playing.
Oh my God.
That was amazing, by the way.
That was pretty cool.
The pick and I watched it. I loved it.
I watched that live. That was one of the picks I watched live, and I saw him do that. That was pretty. I called him Shane a week and a half ago, but I'm sorry. I'm a grown man. I don't sit there and watch wrestling all the time.
Sir. I went to a stadium.
It's a guy who's a Marine.
I went to a stadium in January where there were 77,000 people.
So what? Just because something popular doesn't mean it's good. Just says something popular does not mean it's good.
The White Sox aren't either.
Chanting "Go Cubs Go" after a victory is the dumbest song in the history of sports.
You're about to hear it again in another inning and a half.
Yes, I know I am. Yeah. I expected it, but really, that song is terrible, and it's popular.
It is.
Thomas said, "I didn't know Vince McMahon took over the draft." There'd be more black guys on stage if Vince McMahon back in TV wants us to fight. We can fight.
We can fight. I'll fight him anytime. You're not gonna like what I do to your brother when we fight, but you know, we can fight.
Oh.
Baseball season's underway.
No, like this.
Hey, Chicago, what do you say? The Cubs are gonna win today. They're singing, "Go Cubs, go!"
No, you don't like that?
Oh my God, that is just the worst song. Wouldn't that suck? Like if you wrote that song, you played it, and you wanted to be like a real musician, and then you have the Cubs just playing that song just all the time. I would be like mortified if that was like, oh, I want to be a real musician, but now you have the Cubs playing this song all the time. You're never gonna make it anywhere. Oh, I do the Cubs Go song. Sorry, sir.
Yeah. We could talk to a guy who wrote the White Sox wins one, but that one doesn't get played as often.
Well, that song was like played in 1959.
Yeah,
I think when it started out, so I don't think that guy's alive anymore.
no,
But
I mean,
maybe he should be in the Hall of Fame. I wonder if he slept with a 13-year-old girl.
you want to bring Michael Jordan's dad on and talk to him. He's on. Unbelievable. All right, let's talk about the Caleb Williams stuff before we get out of here real quick. I don't have to me, this is a non-story. It's a non-starter.
Me too.
It's nothing.
Well, this should be a good conversation. I'm glad you brought it up.
The Caleb Williams stuff with his dad is nothing more than a father being protective of his kid, which I have no problem with him being. And even if it was like the fine print of this story that nobody really wants to put out there, and it's usually at the bottom of every time that it's printed somewhere. Caleb Williams, after his meeting with the Bears, telling his dad, "I can do this for this team. I'm going to be a Chicago Bear." Point blank, end of story. And ever since Caleb has taken on the media, what you'll remember when we talked about Caleb Williams and Justin Fields, the whole thing before they drafted him. My biggest concern about Caleb Williams was, could he handle the Chicago media? Could crying in his mom's arm and painting his fingernails and all the other stuff that he was doing, could he handle the stress of the Chicago media? And he has done nothing but prove that he can since he's been in town. He has handled everything perfectly. He has handled everything. So his camp, his dad, anybody else saying he doesn't want to be a Chicago Bear is just, to me, it's just people trying to throw smoke on a team that they expect to be successful. And now they want to bring it down. And that's where it's coming from. The book, whatever it is, however it was said, whatever the case is, I have no problem with a father being protective of their kids. I'm a father of 7. I would do the same thing for my kids if I felt like they were going in a situation where it wasn't going to be beneficial for them. I would say, hey, maybe we could look at something else. Don't look at me like that. You already knew this. Anyway.
We have 7 viewers right now. Are they all watching this? That's the thing.
It just jumped
on. Subscribe to our show. We'd have a hit show on our hands.
I think that a father protecting his kid is okay. He was never going to go play in the UFL, if you believe that. I mean, the only thing that's been a worse organization than the Chicago White Sox or the Chicago Bears over the last 40 years is the UFL. He was never going to the UFL. So to think that's a story is comical to me.
No, and not wanting to go to the Bears, it made sense because he came to the Bears. He said he could play with the Bears team, and then he came to the Bears and promptly was sacked 68 times and was on a team with a moron. Just learned Combs is Philip Rivers.
I learned long ago if you ram it just right, you can ram it all day and ram it all night.
I used to.
Whoa.
Got me into the rest of it now.
I mean, they were right. Why would you want to come to the Bears? The guy, and I mean, we're talking about a guy who gave up a 20-yard play right before a Hail Mary and said the 20-yard play didn't matter.
And then
We're talking
refused to
about a guy.
watch film with his quarterback.
What'd you say?
I said, and then refused to watch film with his quarterback.
Yeah, he's not watching film with the quarterback. I know he's a defensive coach, but you could still be in the room saying, hey, what do you see from the defense here? What are you doing? They had all those hard knocks where he was cool and he was getting his hair cut. No, Eberflus is going to be great now. And we talked about it. He was still an idiot. He was still the same guy who blew 4 fourth quarter leads. And it was like a 1 in 5 million chance that is even possible the year previous to this year. I mean, he's one of the worst head coaches I've ever seen on the Bears. I mean, and the Bears have had some bad head coaches. Even Mark Trestman had a winning season and seemed like he was somewhat competent. He just was he was spineless and couldn't stand up to any of his players. But I mean, this guy was just, so incompetent. I mean, you actually did a disservice to this man by letting him be the head coach for another season, because you made him be even more exposed as somebody that was way over. And it seemed like a nice guy. Like I said, he probably a really good defensive coordinator. He can do that. It's just doing all the little things that you have to do to be the head coach of the team. It seems like you got an upgrade with Ben Johnson. I mean, I don't see how Ben Johnson could be worse. I just don't.
No, I agree.
Well, maybe for that they're 9-8, but I still have them at 8-9, and I'm staying there. I'll go down maybe.
I mean,
I'm not going up.
Somebody asked me this yesterday. They said, how can I get you to 10 wins on the Bears? And I said, you let me see 8 wins in the first 9 weeks. It's the only way I'm going above 9-8.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I just can't do it. Like, you're going to have to show me, you're going to have to prove it to me on the field before I become a believer in the fact that you could win this division. Now, I will say that I have made the argument that the gap in the division was closed last year, because a lot of people say the Bears still have to close the gap within the division first. I think it was closed last year. The 5 losses that they took inside the division, 4 of those 5 losses were by a combined 7 points. They lose that game late that they had no business losing to the Green Bay Packers on the missed field goal, because with 47 seconds, their head coach decided, we're just going to sit right here and wait and then, try to kick a field goal instead of moving it to the other hash mark where my guy's more comfortable. They shouldn't have lost the game in Detroit that they ended up losing late, that they blew a lead on Thanksgiving. There's just so many things that went into this. That game that they lost by, I think, 3 points as well to Minnesota the first time that they met. So,
or they just let them run down the field in overtime.
Yeah. So it's there are so many things that I think that the gap within the division is already closed. Okay. So for me, I don't think that that's where it's at. Okay. I think that where you're looking at right now with the Cubs is that the out of division schedule is the problem, where you have to play the Ravens, you have to play the Bengals, the AFC. Like, there's too many good teams there. Even where you're playing even the Cowboys, right? Like, I mean, the Cowboys are still a good football team.
That's why you strike while the iron's hot. That's why you get Ben Johnson in here last year, and maybe you didn't have the personnel in place anyway, but that's why you strike while the iron is hot, and you get these players used to being on a winning team. Like, I don't know. That's why, because you're due a season where you have you're due a season where you have a bad schedule.
Yeah. And you also now, what you do here too, and you could look at it, I could play devil's advocate for you there, is now this team knows what it looked like, to be a part of an organization you don't want to be a part of. And now, they're going to know what it's like to be a part of an organization that has a different winning culture. You could put it there. But again, as a Bears fan with extreme PTSD, I just have to see it happen first.
Yeah, and I don't think
I'm not going to be mad that I was wrong about my prediction. They go out with 12 games, great.
And I'll be shocked if you have a bad quarterback here. I just don't think he's bad. I think his floor is good to to very good. I really do. I think we have no idea what his ceiling is because you just basically blew his rookie season, which that's what we do here. We make a rookie season with there's no development at all, pretty much.
Yeah. Same passing numbers as Jaden Daniels last year. Exact same. Now the run game was a little bit different, and the difference between Jaden Daniels and him, they led the same amount of last minute drive scores with their team. The difference was Jaden Daniels' defense and special teams didn't blow it. The same passing number. Now Jaden Daniels has far superior legs.
Yeah,
you give it to him there. He had way more total touchdowns, but the same exact passing numbers. Oh, nearly identical passing numbers. So the thought process behind the fact that Caleb Williams isn't the guy, or the Bears may have made the wrong decision, I don't understand, because you're praising Jaden Daniels through the roof for the same thing, with all of the coaching deficiencies that the Bears had last year, with all the coaching deficiencies and all of the play calling and everything that they had to go through. He still threw for 3,500 touchdowns, 3,500 yards, 3,500 touchdowns. That'd be crazy. 3,500 yards, 20 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. So, while getting sacked 68 times in the season. So I don't understand anybody who doesn't believe in this kid. I can't compute that.
No, me neither.
So anyway, man, you ready to get out of here?
Yep, good show.
It's been a good show. We should probably just do them once a month from now on, because we had a lot of really good stuff today.
Yeah, and I only wanted to stab you in the throat 2.5 times.
Yeah, 2.5 times. That's it.
That's it.
Okay.
It's a win.
All right. Well, let's get the hell out of here. Till next time. I don't know when it'll be. Same bat time.
By next Sunday.
We'll be back maybe during another Game 7 and another White Sox Cubs series. Who knows? We'll see you guys. Have a great one.